Day 3 of reading the whole Bible this year. This is the recap, the full readings on YouTube. Today we saw Matthew chapters 8 through 11, and in this video we're going to be doing 8 and 9. So starting out in chapter 8, Jesus heals a leper and tells him not to tell anyone about the miracle, but instead offer the gift that Moses commands to the priest as a testimony. In Capernaum, Jesus heals a centurion servant. When the centurion asks Jesus to heal the servant, Jesus says, "I will go to him." But the centurion tells Jesus, "I'm not worthy to have you come to my house. Just say the words and he will be healed." So the centurion shows great faith, and Jesus is very pleased by this. And this is a common theme, is when people show extreme faith, he is very pleased. Then Jesus enters Peter's house and heals his mother-in-law, and later on Jesus healed many sick and cast demons out of the possessed. This is fulfilling prophecies from Isaiah. Then Jesus' disciples followed him onto a boat, and there was a storm at sea. Jesus was asleep when a huge storm appeared. His disciples were very scared and wake him. Then he says, "O men of little faith," and he rebukes the winds and the seas. And his disciples are marveled because they just saw Jesus control the wind and sea right in front of them. They make it to the other side of the sea in a country called Gadarene. And once they make it, Jesus and his disciple encounter two possessed people. They cry out, "What are you going to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" There was a herd of pigs nearby, and the demons pleaded with Jesus, "Please send us into the pigs." And when they do, the pigs run into the water and kill themselves. When the people of this town see this, they ask the disciples and Jesus to leave them. And of course the demons saying, "Have you come here to torment us before the time?" is foreshadowing for when Jesus comes back to judge the living and the dead. This leads us to chapter 9, where Jesus is starting out healing a paralytic. Jesus came into his own city and people brought him a paralytic. He then tells the paralytic that his sins are forgiven. The scribes say to themselves, "That's blasphemous. Only God can forgive sins." But Jesus knows what they're thinking and says, "Why do you think evil in your hearts? For which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise and walk'?" Then Jesus looks to the paralytic man and says, "Rise up, take your bed, and go home." When the crowd saw this, they were afraid and glorified God. This is us starting to see the relationship between the scribe and the Pharisees and Jesus Christ. Religious leaders of the time do not accept him, and this is part of the reason that they will crucify him later on. As Jesus passed on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting in the tax office and said, "Follow me." And he did. So if you don't know, at the time, the Romans had control over Israel, and being a tax collector for Rome is seen as a very low job because you're betraying your Jewish brothers, basically. So when the Pharisees saw Jesus sitting down with tax collectors and sinners, they questioned him. Jesus said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician. I came not to call the righteous, but the sinners." I always hear I have to get my life right first, then I can go to church, but that's not true. Jesus came to save us sinners, and the door is always open to the Lord. Then John's disciples asked, "Why does Jesus not fast?" Jesus uses a metaphor of a wedding guest, essentially saying you don't fast during a celebration, then makes a metaphor to the fulfillment of the prophets and new law, saying, "No one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, neither is new wine put into an old wineskin." This is saying Jesus is the new cloth and the new wine. With his coming, a new law will be followed. A ruler came to Jesus and asked him to heal his daughter. On the way to his daughter, a woman touched Jesus' garment because she had faith that if she did this, she would be healed. And when Jesus feels his robe being touched, he confirms her faith, telling her, "Your faith has made you well." Then Jesus arrives to the ruler's house. Everyone thinks the daughter is dead, but Jesus tells everyone she is just sleeping. Then they all laugh at him, but he removes everybody from the room, and she rises when Jesus grabs her hand. And then as Jesus passed on from there, he sees two blind men and asks them if they believe if he can heal them. They both say yes. And Jesus tells them, "According to your faith, you'll be healed." And this is what I talked about earlier, where Jesus is always talking about how important faith is, and faith is the reason that these people were healed. Then Jesus goes around to all the cities. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because everybody looked like helpless sheep without shepherds. He then turns to his disciples and says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." This is talking about the disciples of the Lord spreading the word to the lost to bring them to the shepherd. That's all for chapters 8 and 9. 10 and 11 will be posted later today. God bless. Have a good one.